Our third lecture in the digestive unit is all about the mouth. This is also called the oral cavity or the buccal. First structure in the mouth that food would come in contact with. Usually the pattern I follow with the digestive system is I like to go through each structure as food would come in contact with it. So the first structure we have is the lips. The lips are temperature receptors. They are red or really saturated in color because we have a lot of blood vessels in there. And that's to help sense the temperature of whatever we are eating. The next thing you would have is the palate. There are two palates in the mouth. The hard palate is most anterior. It has bone underneath there. You have the maxilla and the palatine bones making up the hard palate. Then, as you move back or posterior, you have the soft palate, which the uvula hangs from the soft palate. This is a muscular structure which also helps trigger the swallowing process, which I will cover at the end of this lecture. I will talk about how swallowing happens. So, just so you can orient yourself a little bit with the mouth, here is a picture of the oral cavity. You have the lips, all right? Then you have the gingiva or the gums, and then you have teeth. You have the tongue, you have the uvula, you have the tonsils, okay? And then you have the opening to the pharynx, which I'll talk about. Next, the tongue. This is a skeletal muscle, which means it is voluntary. And you have a strip of tissue called the frenulum, which holds the tongue to the floor of the mouth. The tongue's main purpose or function is to form the food into the bolus. And the bolus is a word that describes the shape of a package or packet of food as you swallow it. It also contains the taste buds, which allow for, obviously, the sense of taste to occur. You also have a little bit of digestive fluid called lingual lipase. Lipase is a digestive fluid that breaks down lipids. And so you have that being secreted by the tongue to help start breaking down lipids. Lipids are often hard to break down, so you need to start that process early. Next, we have the salivary glands. The salivary glands are producing basically your spit, your saliva. There are two parts of saliva. There are enzymes and there are mucus. And each of these salivary glands produces either both or one of those. The first one is the parotid gland. It is the largest of the salivary glands. It's actually right in front of the ear. It's not actually inside the mouth. And the parotid gland secretes amylase, which is responsible for breaking down carbohydrates. And it only produces amylase. So it only produces enzymes. And it is made of serosis cells, and those are the only ones that will produce, obviously, enzymes. Then you have the sublingual, which is underneath the tongue, and it is mucus. It produces mucus, and it's made of mucosa cells. The submandibular, which is underneath the mandible, it's farther back underneath the tongue in the mandible. And it has both serous and mucosa cells, which means it makes both mucus, the watery part of saliva, and the enzymes from those serous cells. So here you have the parotid gland. It is connected to the mouth by the parotid duct. Then you have the sublingual, which is here underneath the tongue. And as you can see, the submandibular, like I said, is farther back and down underneath the tongue. And you can imagine your mandible that bone that makes your jaw coming right across here. So it's underneath that. So this is just that picture I like showing you to show you where we are in the body. So we've talked about the oral cavity a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit more about that right now. 3 parts of the teeth. You have the crown, the neck, and the root. Surrounding a tooth, you have the gums, which are also called the gingiva. And the teeth are primarily composed of dentin. Dentin is a hard substance that also covers the pulp cavity, and I'm going to show you a picture in just a second of a tooth cut away so you can see what I'm talking about. And then enamel. Enamel is the hardest substance in the body, and it covers over the dentin. It's the outermost layer of the tooth. So here is a cutaway of a tooth. So here you have the crown. This is the part that extends above the gum, above the gingiva. The neck is here at the gum line. Anything below that is the root. If you look at the tooth, you have a layer of enamel. Then you have dentin. Then underneath that, you have the pulp cavity. The pulp cavity has the nerve endings and the blood vessels. And those extend down into the root. So you have this dentin and then the enamel on the outside surrounding this pulp cavity. Now, specialists. Everybody knows about what a dentist does. Their everyday cleaning and care of the teeth. Generally, that means filling cavities, anything like that, taking care of gingivitis. Endodontists, these are guys that deal with anything that could be involved with the bone underneath the tooth. So if you have a pulp or a root extraction, oftentimes an endodontist will be called in. And then orthodontics is concerned with prevention and correction of alignment. So if you have some weird things about where your teeth are placed in the jaw or the maxilla, that's where an orthodontist will be called. Now, teeth. As you know, we have 2 sets of teeth. We have the deciduous or the milk, sometimes called baby teeth. And you actually have fewer of your baby teeth than you do of your adult teeth. You have incisors, which you have 2 of. Then you have your canines. And then you have molars. And that's all you have for a baby mouth. Once you move into getting your adult teeth, your permanent teeth, you have the incisors. You have 2 sets of those again, here in the center of the mouth. Then you have the canine. Then you get 2 called premolars or bicuspids. And then you have 3 molars. The 3rd molar is called the wisdom tooth. Often these are removed because the jaw is now too small in humans for those to be in there. And this is just showing you, oftentimes you'll see this photo at the dentist's office, and they'll indicate places where you have cavities on each of these, and you number them across the top and then across the bottom. The tonsils. Many of you may have had these removed, although that is falling less in favor of just treating the infections as they come up. But the tonsils are part of the lymphatic system. They are helping to fight infections of anything that we could consume or breathe in. So, pharynx. Pharynx is actually the opening at the back of the mouth. It connects the nose, the mouth, and then what is called the laryngeal pharynx, which is basically the top of the throat. And I'm going to show you where that is right now. So here's your nasopharynx, your oropharynx, and your laryngeal pharynx right before the opening to the trachea and the esophagus. And like I said, these are all one cavity. These are all connected as one cavity. I am running out of time, so this is where I'll break this one, and I will pick it up in the next video.